Hello there, I'm Level49 and welcome to Audio Log the Ill Edition, the second, I think. Yeah, 'cause I was ill for, when I got back from EGX, yeah. Oh, fun, isn't it? No, ill isn't actually fun in the slightest. But screw talking about me, let's talk about DMC. Didn't mean that to rhyme, but, well, woo, and stuff, oh, shut up. But yeah, DMC, apparently, it's time to talk about it again, a couple million years since it actually came out. Well, this is DMC Devil May Cry. Still the worst title in the universe, but I'm sure there are worse out there, but redundancy is redundant. And also not the point. Like, you see, the weird bit is, I am definitely a fan of the series, like, definitely. And, like, I personally don't like DMC Devil May Cry as much as the other ones. Well, I'm going to justify what I mean by other ones a bit later. Because there is some interesting circumstances with me, as in I played DMC Devil May Cry first. As in, out of all of the series, I played the latest first. And I didn't understand what the hell the the controversy was about, because it just didn't make sense. Like, but that's because you're only listening to the dipshits, who were understandably dipshits, who, you know, screaming about hair colour and angst and other things, and it's just like, that is not the problem in the slightest. I don't care if his hair is dyed blue for all I know. He could literally turn out to be Sonic in the next game and I wouldn't give a shit. That's not the point. And the story is, well, I never actually got to complete DMC Devil May Cry because I owned it on PS3, and then my PS3 exploded before I could complete the game, so I don't actually know what the story ends with. I think I got like halfway through the game, maybe a little bit more than that, but, you know, a decent amount, to the point where I think I'm allowed to talk about it. Also, fun little thing, I don't think, recently, I've gone an audio log without talking about Devil May Cry, the series, in one form or another. Don't know how I've managed that, but oh well. But yeah, like, you see, the problems with DMC Devil May Cry, let me explain. When I say I don't think it's a bad game, that is not something that, it definitely isn't a bad game. People who say it's a bad game are nutters. But it isn't as good as the other games. It's definitely a good game. Some even say great, and, well, yeah, if you like that, then yeah, it is great. But is it as good as DMC 3 and 4? No, but that's pretty damn hard, considering I think DMC 4 is the greatest spectacle fighter I've ever played. It's pretty damn hard to be greater than the greatest, so, you know. But that doesn't, again, mean it's bad. I like DMC Devil May Cry, but it isn't as good as DMC 3 and 4. Jesus Christ, these names are so annoying. But yeah, like, if you, for some reason, want a ranking system in my brain... See, I never played 1 and 2. Apparently 1 is an old game, and, well, obviously not apparently, it's an old game. It is an old game, and therefore suffers from old game problems, and obviously I don't really like old games, because they suffer from old game problems, as I literally just said. So, you know, and DMC 2 is apparently not very good, but I've never played it, so, you know. I haven't played 1 and 2. I don't even know what they're on about. Apparently, well, people who complain this about the story in DMC are insane, but oh, whatever. She was the one to fill my soul with light. I can't do impressions very well, but you know the moment. But yeah, my personal rankings is DMC 4, DMC 3, and then DMC Devil May Cry. Jesus Christ. Those names are so dumb. Did nobody, like, go, hey, maybe we shouldn't call it Devil May Cry, Devil May Cry? And this is the latest one, because, you know, DMC is an abbreviation of Devil May Cry, so the game is literally called Devil May Cry, Devil May Cry. That doesn't make any sense. It would have been better if they just called it DMC 0, honestly. Or just have called it DMC. DMC A New Beginning, or something. I mean, not DMC Devil May Cry. DMC Redundancy. There we go. Brilliant name. And it keeps with the whole, you know, having an R for the first letter of your subtitle. Genius. No, it isn't. So yeah, like, the problems of the game, it's weird. Like, the weapons, they're okay, but they're not quite as ridiculously weird as DMC 3 and 4. Like, there's nothing quite as cool as Lucifer, or Gilgamesh, or anything like that. Or, Agni and Rundra and stuff like that. Which is weird, because Agni and Rundra were just a double sword. I am running out of words, apparently. They were two swords, and that's all they were. And, yeah, things like that. And Beowulf and, stuff like that. I don't think... I never got to play as Virgil, so I have no idea how Yamoto was in that game, but, oh well. Never got to play it, because PS3 exploded, as I said. Well, not literally, obviously, but you know what I mean. So, yeah, the weapons weren't quite as interesting. I mean, you had your normal basic rebellion, which did basically the same as every rebellion in all the other DMC games did. But then you had the scythe weapon. This is to my memory, which is pretty bad. But yeah, you got the scythe weapon, which acted like any scythe weapon out of every Spectacle fighter ever. And then you had punchy weapon, which was just a punchy weapon. It's nothing as cool as Gilgamesh, which was a punchy weapon and a kicky weapon, and also a hilarious thing. For, like, you could just kick people up into the air and punch them around and flipping dive kick them and do awesome things like that. But, the punchy weapon was just a slow, punchy weapon in DMC Devil May Cry, which was just a bit like, whatever. And I don't remember any other weapons past that, but I remember them not being as interesting. So, that's a bit of a problem. But at the same time, not actually that much. And then we get down to, like, the combat system. Most people don't notice this because, it's... You don't really realise it, but DMC Devil May Cry didn't have I think it's called the hard lock system. I could be wrong about that. I usually am when it comes to these technical terms. But, yeah, the hard lock system. You see, how in DMC... I think all the others, in DMC 3 and 4 at least, how it works is you could lock onto an enemy, or you would lock onto an enemy, and if you kept your left analog stick in a neutral position, then you'll do your normal attack. This also includes like pause combos and whatever. You'll do your normal attack if you kept it neutral. If you pointed it forwards, you would do Stinger, you'll dash towards them with your blade. If you held it back, you would do High Roller, which is you're knocking them up into the air attack. Things like that. And that would also work with all the different weapons. It would basically be, if you held it forwards, you would do a dash towards them type attack, and if you held it backwards, you would do a kick them up into the air type attack. And that was basically the same for all weapons. But in DMC Devil May Cry, that wasn't the case. That system was out of a window. You didn't have a lock-on system in the same way. Apparently a lot of recent Spectacle fighters think that having a lock-on system is just so... it's just not in this year, which is really flipping dumb, by the way. Fucking Dark Souls. Dark Souls even knows how to have a good lock-on system. And yet, recent Spectacle fighters, ones where you need to constantly be switching between enemies and stuff like that, don't for some reason, which blows my mind, but never mind. Again, didn't mean that to rhyme, but oh well. So yeah, that was a weird thing that they decided to change, and it feels more like they didn't quite realise it was there to begin with. But oh well. Then there was Devil Trigger. You wouldn't have thought there was a problem with the Devil Trigger in DMC Devil May Cry, but the fact that it was just so useless is the best way of putting it. If you don't know what Devil Trigger is, it's, once you get a certain amount of wubbity-boo-bar, or whatever the game wants to call it in this edition, you would, go Super Saiyan. It's basically your Super Saiyan button. But what DMC Devil May Cry did was, instead of, you going Super Saiyan, you would instead launch all enemies up into the air and you'll go into artsy-fartsy vision. And that's it. And I think you got a damage boost. And time would slow down. But all enemies would be knocked up into the air, which is really unhelpful. It's especially because, I'm just remembering, you didn't actually get any different ranged weapons. You didn't get any different guns, which is really strange, because I'm pretty sure in literally every other DMC you did. I think you just stuck with Ebony and Ivory for DMC Devil May Cry. instead of getting things like the shotgun and rocket launcher and Artemis and Pandora and all these other awesome weapons that for some reason aren't in DMC Devil May Cry. Seriously, I wish Pandora was in that game. Pandora, by the way, is a combat system unto itself, and it's in like DMC 4. You see, I don't get why people hate DMC 4 so much, like, because it's really not a bad game. It's honestly one of my favourites. Like, the main reason people hate it, people say they hate it, is A, because they haven't actually played it, or B, because they haven't played it that much, and have, just read a review. God, review is always wrong, but I'm joking. But it's the main complaint of the game repeats itself, which, yeah, it does. I can't justify that. There's no way I can defend that. I'm not insane. But I personally found the gameplay amazing enough to look past it. And honestly, like, people, this is something weird that I noticed, that with things like Metal Gear Revengeance and stuff like that, the environments were really bloody boring, okay? Do you remember any of the environments out of MGR? Let's see now, there was Brown City, Grey City, Grey Building, Grey Airport. Yeah, no. And then, while the environments weren't particularly unique, at least I remember them out of DMC4. There's, Ice Place, there's the big white city thing, there's the big white base thing that I've forgotten the name of, and then there's the forest place, and, I remember these environments, whereas with MGR it's all just sort of bleh, a big mess of grey and brown, which is really disappointing. But yeah, the environments do repeat, and I can't justify that in the slightest, as I literally just said. So yeah, you see, I hope there are more DMC games. Apparently there is going to be a remaster, re-release, rubber-de-boo-bub, who knows, of DMC4 called DMC4 Definitive Edition, coming out on, the PS4s and stuff like that. Which apparently adds another character as well, Virgil, in keeping with tradition. So maybe that will, persuade them to make another game. Who knows, if they go down the, continuing with DMC Devil May Cry route, or whether they do as Jim Sterling suggested, and, decide to just ignore that entirely and keep on going with the other DMC route. Honestly, it doesn't actually matter. People who care about the story are insane. I mean, the story is silly. Oh god, is it silly. Yeah, no, it's not something you should take seriously. So, it doesn't actually matter which route they go down. The story doesn't matter in the slightest. His hair colour doesn't matter in the slightest. Whether or not he is an angsty motherfucker doesn't matter in the slightest. But, but the problems were with the gameplay. But the problems aren't, problems. They're just, things that aren't quite as good as the others. Which is, it's a weird thing, isn't it? Holy crap, I have just spent 13 minutes rambling about Devil May Cry. Jesus. It is apparently the month of Devil May Cry, but oh well. Or the month of talking about Devil May Cry. Should I go over the 15-minute mark and, talk about the literally massive amounts of other topics I have? Or do I stop? Oh, I don't know. Oh, what should I do? No, I'm just going to stop. I'll leave them for later. But yes, I've been Lowell49, and Jesus Christ, I have so much DMC.